In this GRW presentation, I will be discussing the Niger Delta industry in turmoil. The Niger Delta is a vast body of water that is part of the Niger River and located on the Gulf of Guinea in the Atlantic Ocean and extends 70,000 kilometers squared, consisting of 9 river states. It's the largest Nigerian wetland and encompasses a majority of the economic activities within the country and is largely responsible for sustaining the Nigerian Federation because of the extensive amount of oil that the region holds. It produces 3 million barrels per day for exports. Since Nigeria holds large oil reserves, historically industry has been at the center of many activities surrounding this region, and the population has been affected tremendously through environmental degradation and violent conflicts between rebel groups and the government. Industrialization has led to many technological advantages to the impoverished area. However, the environmental impacts and the chaotic industrial activities has kept this region in poverty and has polluted the vital water source for an estimated 31 million, consisting of more than 40 ethnic groups. International media attention has been captured because of the continuous violent conflict by rebel groups labeled as the Nigerian Avengers and the oil spills from multinational corporations such as Shell in 2013. I had to first encounter this topic in my AP Comparative Government class during my junior year of high school while studying Nigeria and was captivated by the fact that the region was in complete utter mayhem while Nigeria's economy continued to soar. This has led me to question, to what extent has industrialization of the Niger Delta impacted the development of Nigeria? In order to answer this question, there will be a focus on the development of a country surrounding the criteria of whether a country is underdeveloped or developed. There will also be a focus on the current and early history of conflict and civil unrest in the region and how it has affected the societies residing in the Niger Delta, spanning from the colonial rule by British to the Biafran War, a civil war in Nigeria between the ethnic groups that occurred mainly in the Niger Delta. The history of oil exploration started in the early 1900s. Oil was first discovered in 1956 by the British Shell de RC Petroleum and British Petroleum, also known as BP today, in the Olubori state in the Niger Delta. Ever since the discovery of oil, the Nigerian economy has increased over the years, making billions through the industrialization of the Delta. However, the lack of regulation of oil drilling, environmental degradation, incompetent government, and the continuous violence in modern day has kept this region in societal decline and economic instability. You can even observe these traits in different areas of the country where infrastructure is largely third world and developing one area, and when you get to more urbanized areas like the capital city of Lagos, there is better infrastructure with paved roads and modernized buildings. It is no doubt that the oil from the Niger Delta is keeping the country afloat, but internalized issues are breaking the country apart. Corruption from government officials who siphon oil funds for their own personal use that isn't clearly put to use to improving the life conditions of those throughout the country, causing uproar among citizens who demand answers about the missing oil funds. According to the United States Library of Medicine and National Institutes of Health, environmental impact from oil pollution ranges from unsafe drinking water to oil pollution in the ground causing reduced soil fertility, killing trees and food crops, leading to 60% reduction to household food security for those living in the Delta, mainly for the cassava plant, which is a staple food for many villages in the Niger Delta, that leads to higher rates of malnutrition, especially for those that are younger age, leading to short and long-term health effects such as cancer, anemia, diarrhea, infertility in women, and respiratory failure, and many other ailments. Oil pollution in the Niger Delta have left those living in the country impoverished despite the large amount of revenues made from oil industrialization in their backyards. In a video by Amnesty International features a farmer from the Boda village that explains the effects of oil spills on the ecosystem and lives surrounding the water body in the Niger Delta.
We are about 10 other workers who were taking care of the proceed. 10 people, they are 10 families. I decided to take the families so that what they get there, they will be able to help their own families. If you look at the ground here, you see all this thing is the crude oil. Look at it. See, it enter into the ground. Soak it. Look at all over. You can see the big creek there. From that big creek, from the point you are seeing there to where the pipeline is about 1 kilometer plus. So when the equipment failure there, the water that is flowing through the creek, so as the tide was coming, carrying the crude oil, that is how he flew up into all the fish pond and kill all the mangrove tree, all the ecosystem, everything that we put there, all of them just died a day. And
As seen through this video, you can see how impactful the oil spills has on the lives of those living in the Delta. To continue, infrastructure development is one of the many constraints to the development of Nigeria and inconsistencies in policy making. Billions has been spent to improve infrastructure development and provide safe drinking water for many Nigerians throughout the country. I would argue that these policies are instead contributing to massive industry in the poverty-stricken Delta region rather than improving the lives of those in the Delta. In an article titled "The Oil and Gas Production on the Nigerian Economy, a Royal Sector Econometric Model," shows the growth of Nigeria's GDP over time, in which Nigeria later becomes, in the 21st century, the largest economy in Africa, surpassing South Africa, and the 11th largest oil producer in the world. This has led me to question, what does it mean to be developed? How does the economy of a country dictate if a country is developed or not? In which I found an article posted by Investopedia.com that defines development status as including level of industry and GDP, but health, education, standard of living, and infrastructure also play key factors to the development status of a country. The Niger Delta, historically since 1901, during the British colonial rule of Nigeria and the big oil boom, has always been heavily exploited for oil, and later in the 1960s became the center of the Nigerian Civil War, as it was part of the seceding region of Biafra, leading to conflict to break out between the ethnic groups because of the economic importance of the Delta, and it was closer to domestic parts such as the water and the Atlantic Ocean. During the 21st century, conflict is still plagued by the region through movements by indigenous groups such as the Ogoni and fishing villages. Environmental impact is large and can even be observed through the 2013 Shell spill, in which an article from Amnesty International states, anyone who visits for themselves knows how the pollution has spread across the land. It is by no doubt that the oil industry has destructed the lives of those in the Delta, as Nigeria's government continues to try to develop through industry and through the creation of the SAT policy in 1986 and the creation of the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology in the 1990s. Nigeria is still at a crossroads for development, while those living in the Niger Delta states are still coming to terms with the industry and trying to shape their lives around the oil and sustaining water for their own lives as well. Global warming and climate change lays in a balance for the lives of those living in the Delta, posing a new issue that could lead to horrific consequences for the environment. Additionally, so does the global supply and demand, as the supply for oil decreases and demand increases that could possibly pose a threat to the economy of Nigeria if they aren't able to find a balance between the impactful nature of industry and the environment. The way that the country is leading could lead it into a failed state, which leads me to question more on whether or not the conditions of the Niger Delta will improve. Will profit from the Delta lead to Nigeria's demise? Only time will tell, but there's no doubt that the Niger Delta is an impactful body of water that Nigeria as a society is dependent on. Thanks for watching.